The Velvet Underground. It's a sort of huge shadow over the music I was involved with.
Edinburgh was a very bleak place in the mid-70s, really bleak.
There kind of was no context. We were doing this into a void.
Football matches, youth clubs, violence was always lurking somewhere nearby.
Strike of at least 1,000 megatons has been launched by the enemy.
And then the White Riot tour came. It was one of those moments where you realised all the things you were feeling, being young and not having money, to suddenly be with a group of people you looked around and thought, they're just like me.
Clash were at the top of the bill, the Buzzcocks, the Jam, the Slits, the Subway Sect and the Prefects.
It was a real year zero moment. It was breaking everything that went down before and trashing it in a performance. It was like, I want this, I want more.
It was just like a total DIY, don't give a fuck kind of thing.
And immediately everybody started playing music.
I mean, everybody you knew was in a band. We just got up and did it, really.
We started to see these other bands doing stuff, and we thought, right, why don't we do a record label? I bought my boyfriend a copy of Spiral Scratch. I said, gotta listen to this.
Boredom. I listened to Spiral Scratch and I thought, okay, this is what Fast Product should do. And went out to find my Spiral Scratch. We started running the label out of a flat in Keir Street. Some of the Scars were part of that. Fire Engines were part of that.
You know, the red, the noisy.
It was just the fucking rawness, man. Do you know what I mean?
From day one, I thought I was making hit records.
Human League sent him a tape with Being Boiled, and that was amazing hearing that for the first time.
I'd put the record out before I ever met them. I set up stall, said, here's the attitude, and it just dropped into my lap.
I was thinking, gosh, his label is getting really hip and really big. Are we never going to get our chance to make a record?
Adultery and Horror Show on Fast Product by the Scars. It was like Scotland's Anarchy in the UK.
He was putting records out. Those records were getting played on national radio. It was unbelievable.
I didn't have a clue how to do it. I just assumed I'd made something fucking great. There are going to be people who want to buy it.
It just felt that Scotland was alive. That was a big, big moment.
Thank you.
Punk was kind of resolutely working class, so when Edwin and Alan appeared, they looked like something from The Famous Five.
There they were with their kind of Roger McGuinn bowl cuts, and Edwin had his little sailor suit on. They were playing these big Gretsch guitars. It sort of looked different than the punk rock bands had looked.
As soon as you heard Orange Juice and Joseph K, it had a sound. It was local, but it was also international. But it was wholly itself, and it was great.
For the London-based music press, it was like a beacon of sunshine out of this darkness that Joy Division and other groups represented.
It was the start of prejudices being broken down again. It was almost like it was okay to smile.
Alan Horn was a lot cleverer than people give him credit for. He created a whole tongue-in-cheek world of Scottishness. It was like, I know something you don't.
We knew eventually we were going to have to find a way of getting onto records. And it seemed a lot easier than going around talking to major companies who seemed really silly at the time.
One day he'd be like, we're going to change the world, it's going to be fantastic. And the next day he'd be lying on the floor in his bedroom. It's a disaster, Orange Juice a crap. It was a roller coaster ride.
Alan lost a certain confidence. He started to kind of doubt himself and doubt the band. The whole thing had started to kind of disintegrate.
London Records gave him a blank cheque, and for the first time in his life, he had a bag of money. Swamplands was one of these things that promised a lot.
He had total carte blanche to do what he wanted. He was a sort of enfant terrible.
He signed Paul Quinn.
I think the worst thing that happened to both Alan and Paul was meeting.
And it's like him looking for this sort of singer who you could control, kind of. You know, he tried it with Edwin, it didn't work.
Fast Product, they almost seemed to capture that sort of zeitgeist. But there was almost a sort of subversive idea that let's infiltrate the mainstream. I think that's what Bob Lass did very cleverly with the Human League.
I liked the idea of the mass market.
I'd joined effectively a cult band. It was almost like a complete surprise that it went that stratospheric.
Human League were #1 band, you know, with Dare, both sides of the Atlantic.
Nobody knew that they were going to be as big as they were.
I don't know if it's necessarily a reaction against the 80s blandness.
A lot of bands lost their way. Everything had gone horribly wrong. I think that's why Mary Chain and Shop Sisters and all that was very much needed.
It was just raw rock and roll.
Douglas Hart came in with biker boots, leathers. He looked like James Dean. And Jimmy Milligan looked as if he'd come in through the back end of a hairdryer.
There used to be posters everywhere saying the Jesus and Mary Chain. They never even had a record out. You were just thinking, you know, what the fuck is that? I want to be part of that.
We were playing with fire. Oh, it's going to be a riot. We started having riots, and then it really became mad. Got a bit frightened.
Half the crowd loved us, and half the crowd wanted to kill us. Wait till you lock yourself in the dressing room. Yeah, you were doing something right.
Name, Sean Dixon. Band, the Soup Dragons. Instruments played, voice, guitar, and anything else I can get my hands on.
Norman was just the guy that lived round the corner, and then Douglas was introduced to me through Norman. That's where all the craziness started.
I heard this Jonathan Richman record and I was like, I'm going to have a go at that. And I was like, I'm forming a group.
Name, Douglas Stewart. Band, BMX Bandits. Instruments played.
Well, I went to guitar lessons for 5 years, but I was so hopeless I just signed.
We had like a tape recorder, so we would make up little songs and we'd, at the end of the day, listen to what we'd done that day.
You could go into Glasgow on a Saturday afternoon and busk with Douglas and just be completely and utterly outrageous.
When we played live, you know, people would throw tumblers at us and I would threaten to bring them up on stage and smack their bottom in front of all the other ladies and gentlemen. I don't think we ever doubted that this was actually going to happen. We really thought we were going to go out and conquer the world together.
Spin Magazine named the Bandwagon-esque album of the year. We played Saturday Night Live and did crazy stuff like that. We didn't expect that at all.
We signed with like Geffen Records and Nirvana had broken and they were saying, oh, you're going to be next. And you're thinking, well, if all this has happened up tonight, why not?
The dawning a postcard and Fast was the beginning of the real Scottish music scene. We ran with it after that as Creation.
We were like explorers.
It was still quite new in terms of what an indie label could be, what it could do.
We thought we were making good music, and people today still think it is.
I think there's always going to be a sound of young Scotland.
It did cause outrage, but it's about being fast, it's about being intense, and we're done.
Got to write the movie, correct? You know what I mean? There's a movie to write.